Show.
And here we go on a Saturday staple on the program. It is time for True or False on the Jake Asman Show. And True or False begins right now. Kevin Zepak has the questions. I got the answers. Kevin, let's get it rolling, baby.
All right. Well, this is rather topical, given we gave a lot of attention to this in the first hour of the program, talking about how successful Justin Fields has been at Ohio State, how there's a lot of criticism levied toward him. And this is a bad time to have that criticism sent your way, as obviously you always want to be taken as high in the draft as possible. And some outlets, some publications we've seen has had his stock plummeting. Now, given all that he's accomplished, given his physical skills, as opposed to a guy like Zach Wilson, who is probably going to go to the Jets at number 2, but certainly has not accomplished as much as Justin Fields. Would you, if you're the New York Football Jets, take Justin Fields over Zach Wilson?
Ooh, false. False. I would not. I would stick with Zach Wilson. I would stick with the plan that Joe Douglas has. Who am I to question it, right? I'm just some talk show host. I have faith in Joe. See, here's the thing. I'm okay with either Fields or Wilson. I've made that very clear numerous amounts of times. But I think you got to let the football people make the decision. The football people made the decision to move on from Sam Darnold. And if it is Zach Wilson, I'm going to support the pick because it's Joe Douglas making the pick. I want the Jets on the same page. I didn't want any scenario where not everyone was all in on trading Sam, or you had, the head coach and the GM on different timelines. The Jets have a first-year head coach that was hired by the GM. Now the front office and GM that people seem to respect around the league has the right to make his pick. So if they went Fields, I wouldn't be that upset. I think Fields is a really good quarterback prospect. I think what he did at Ohio State is being, overly analyzed. I thought he was amazing against Clemson in that playoff game. In a big game, he showed you why he's one of the top prospects in the game. So if they went Fields, would I be upset as a Jet fan? Absolutely not. But do I think they're going to go Fields? No, I don't. I think it's going to be Wilson. I love Wilson's upside. I love the personality. I love everything I've heard about his work ethic.
Headband. You like the headband.
Love the headband. Love the fact that yesterday he sent out a tweet endorsing our favorite Chipotle. So, look, I'm all in on Wall Street, Wilson, Zach's Fifth Avenue, whatever we're calling him, Jet fans. But if they took Fields, would I be that upset? No. In Joe Douglas, I trust, as I've said over and over again.
I can already see the Jet faithful out there in the stands right now wearing the headband. They're going to turn it into the lime green headband. Or it's not lime green. What is it? Jet green? Is there like a color for it?
Gotham green.
Gotham green. Oh, boy. That's adorable. All right, moving on. A similar topic here. True or false? Jake, the first 4 picks in the NFL draft will all be quarterbacks. The first 4 picks.
False. I think the first 3 are quarterbacks. Atlanta goes Kyle Pitts at 4. I think they're going to try and trade out. They won't find the trading partner they're looking for. And the value of getting Pitts in that offense with Hayden Hurst, the other tight end, with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and still giving Matt Ryan a legitimate chance to light it up on the scoreboard with a coach not named Dan Quinn now.
Thankfully, for everyone in Atlanta.
I think that is the reasoning behind why we shall see the Atlanta Falcons not go quarterback at 4, but rather go Kyle Pitts 4th overall.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit before, where when you're one of those quarterbacks, or one of those teams that doesn't have a quarterback, like you and I know as well as anybody, you kind of get into that limbo state where you feel like in the first round you got a high pick, you got to get a quarterback. You got to get a quarterback, and then that might leave a guy like Kyle Pitts who's able to fall, who might be the best overall player in the draft. No disrespect to Trevor Lawrence or anyone else. I mean, Kyle Pitts is an absolute freak show. The potential to change that position even more than it already has been over the past 10, 15 years. So I think I agree with you there, and I think it would be a great pick for the Falcons. All right, over to more of a grand scheme here in the National Football League. BetMGM has released their win-loss over-unders for the upcoming season, and the Kansas City Chiefs, the runners-up in the last Super Bowl, are listed as having the most wins in the NFL in a 17-game season, mind you, next year. They are listed at 12. True or false, the Chiefs will win the most games in the National Football League next season?
False. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the most games. I think they're in a division that sets up nicely for Tampa to do it, right? Carolina is in flux at quarterback. Saints don't have Drew Brees anymore.
They're all cattywampus. I mean, they don't know which way any of those teams know where they're going.
Atlanta still, we like them. We think they'll be better now that Quinn's gone, but we don't know. And I think the Bucs, the fact that they won 11 games year one with Brady in a pandemic year, without a preseason, without an off-season program, now you bring everyone back. Brady knows the offense. He's going to be more comfortable in that scenario. There's going to be fans back in the stands, so they'll get a home field advantage again. Man, I think the Bucs are the best team in the NFL. And as long as Brady doesn't fall off this cliff at age 44, which, I mean, why would we think that would happen? I think the Bucs are the best team in the league, and they win the most games. And I think the Chiefs are going to be challenged by the Bills, by the Browns, and even in their own division.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Herbert's as good as we think he is, the Chargers are more dangerous now. So the Chiefs are still great. They're still probably going to be the favorites to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. But eventually someone's going to knock them off. So give me the Bucs getting more wins than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it's a good call to, thinking about the division, because as you mentioned, the NFC South is all up in arms right now, and the consistency that the Bucs are able to provide next to all of the talent they have, obviously, whereas the Chiefs do have some tougher divisional games, certainly out west. All right, over to Major League Baseball. We talked a little bit about this off the air earlier, but the Padres and Dodgers played the first of their 19 matchups last night. It was a 11-6 Los Angeles win in 12 innings after I had gone to sleep, admittedly. True or false, San Diego and Los Angeles will be the most must-see rivalry of 2021.
True. I mean, name me a better rivalry right now. I mean, if the Yankees ever figure out how to play baseball again, maybe if they could have a good rivalry with the Rays, who own them, or the Red Sox, who have been bad and are off to a nice start. Dodgers-Giants used to be the rivalry in that division, but the Giants aren't good enough to match up with the Dodgers, and the Padres are. I mean, the Padres are legit. The first of 19 matchups last night in the first game, bench is clear, and you go to 12 innings. That's the rivalry. Baseball needs that to be the rivalry, because what are you getting, amped up about if you're a baseball fan if that's not a great rivalry? Baseball's become so regionalized. The way to get it more national attention is if you have a great rivalry between two great teams in the same division.
You got two great teams in the same division that clearly do not like each other. That's already been on display. I'm sure the Dodgers feel the Padres nipping at their heels. The Dodgers are the defending champions. They're the best team in baseball. Once again, with 12-2 off to another crazy start so far this year. And you got superstars certainly on both squads, even with Bellinger set to miss some time here coming up, unfortunately. But one thing, and I mentioned this kind of casually, I stayed up till midnight. I wanted to watch the game. I turned it on right at 9. I wanted to see Tatis back. I wanted to see these, who was pitching for San Diego? It was David Weathers' son. Do you remember David Weathers,
yes.
the old reliever?
Yep.
His son started, he's the youngest pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Against Walker Buehler. So it was a good matchup.
Again, Walker Buehler, one of the best around as well. So, yeah, it was a great matchup. I turned it on, but listen, we're in the central time zone, and I couldn't stand, and I'm kind of a night owl too, and I couldn't stay up to watch that thing. That's going to be tough for folks in central time zone and especially out east to be able to see these games. And obviously you need to cater toward the local market, so you can't, move it up 2-3 hours. But I think that might be one thing that could stand in the way of these two teams maybe getting their due nationally, like I'd like them to see, and like they deserve.
You need them to also meet in the playoffs to solidify the rivalry. What made
Sure.
Yankees Red Sox what it was in its heyday in the late 90s into the 2000s is the two
They
teams
played every year in the playoffs.
they met one another in the ALCS 3 separate times. So that's what you need to really build the rivalry and get the attention it deserves.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Yankees, moving on here, angry Yankee fans, which might be a little, redundant at this point of the season, because most of the Yankee fans are angry, yourself included. But play was halted last night during a Yankee loss to the Rays as fans were pelting the field with baseballs. And that was not a nice scene at Yankee Stadium. True or false, fans who are discovered to have thrown balls onto the field should be banned from Yankee Stadium for the entire season.
True, yes. See, when stupid fans act out, the entire fan base gets heat and gets blamed. When the vast majority of those idiots were probably drunk, annoyed, and they're not real Yankee fans. You're not a real baseball fan if you're throwing baseballs onto the field in the middle of play. No, so yeah, they should be banned. Just like there was a fan on opening day that Aaron Judge made a catch into the stands by extending his glove, and this animal's trying to grab the ball out of Judge's glove, dude. All those types of people,
what are you doing?
They should be banned. They should absolutely be banned. As we're talking about the Yankees, and Justin Wilson gives up an RBI double to make it 6-3 now. So there goes the Yankee comeback attempt. I'm so disgusted with this team this year, man. I mean, the Yankees have been so bad. And I understand it's early. I don't need people being like, Jake, it's April. I know it's April. But they have been awful, and they get owned by the Tampa Bay Rays every single time they play them, and they have a third of the payroll the Yankees do. It's an embarrassment. And those fans last night, also an embarrassment.
Absolutely. And that being said, the Yankees are in last place in the American League East. They're 5-8, probably about to be 5-9 after this one. True or false? It's time to panic in the Bronx.
Yeah, true. I mean, I don't know if you want to go full-blown panic, but it's alarming how they played. It's alarming. I mean, it's alarming how they pitched so far. Garrett Cole goes tomorrow. If he doesn't win tomorrow, when are they winning another game? So at least that's how it feels like.
That was one of the things that I thought about the Yankees coming into the season. You know, I thought they'd hit a lot better than they've been hitting, but I didn't think they had enough behind Cole in that rotation. I like Montgomery quite a bit, actually.
He's a good pitcher.
He is a good pitcher, and I like those kind of softer tossing lefty types as, you know, a big Mark Burley fan. But I don't think that they have enough in that rotation.
Not yet.
I think they need to make a move, absolutely.
Not yet. I mean, they're going to get Luis Severino back at some point soon.
For how long, though? I mean, that guy's always on the shelf.
That's the thing. He's coming off Tommy John, so we shall see. But, you know, you look at this team right now. Kluber's got to be better. Tyone's got to be better. They have Cole, they have Montgomery, and a bunch of question marks.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, the pitching's been bad. They're not hitting. I mean, they're the New York Yankees, and you got Gleyber Torres and Aaron Hicks and all these guys that you're counting on in the middle of your lineup not doing anything. And they got to be better. I mean, the hitting you'd think would come around, but the pitching needs to get better. And when they play the Tampa Bay Rays, they allow the Rays to turn into the 1927 Yankees. Like, it's just ridiculous how bad they play against Tampa.
All right, to the NBA, LaMarcus Aldridge abruptly retired from the NBA this week, citing an irregular heartbeat. True or false? It's kind of a two-parter. Aldridge is a future Hall of Famer, and he deserves a ring if the Nets win the title this season.
So true on him being a Hall of Famer, because let's understand something. The Basketball Hall of Fame,
everybody gets in.
You get in if you have a pulse. Like, you and I could have made the NBA Hall or the Basketball Hall of Fame if we truly had to. So I think he'll get in. He's a multi-time All-Star. He's a multi-time first-team All-Pro type of player. He's going to get into the Basketball Hall at some point. Does he deserve a ring if the Nets win a title? I'd say true. I mean, it's not like the guy retired because, you know, he just quit on the team. He had a health scare, and it made him think better about continuing to play. You can't fault the guy for taking care of his body. So, yeah, I mean, the Nets have plenty of money to make another ring for LaMarcus Aldridge. So if they win, I say true. You give him a ring.
All right, I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit because I definitely want to hear your take on this one and get to this. True or false? You will be watching Jake Paul versus Ben Askren tonight.
False, but I am a Jake Paul supporter.
Really?
This might surprise you.
You're a Paul guy.
I'm a Paul
guy. You're
guy.
Younger than me, so that's more your generation.
Well, so I got to be honest. I didn't really know much about him, but at the Super Bowl 2 years ago, Jake Paul came on my radio show in Miami. So
there
I guess
you go. That's a good get.
So like a year and a half ago, I guess.
Yeah.
It was before the Chiefs and the Niners Super Bowl back at the last Radio Row in person. Came on my show. He was promoting a big boxing fight. He was being in his first professional fight. He won that fight, and then we all watched him knock out Nate Robinson in that fight a couple months ago.
Never forget that one. Yeah.
Can't forget it, right? So, I mean, who am I to judge Jake Paul? Why not ride the Paul wagon, baby?
Riding the Paul wagon. All right. Well, let's to get that one into a promo, perhaps. Yeah. And he's fighting Ben Askren, who at one point was a very good MMA fighter, but boxing and stand-up was never his specialty.
He's like 36 years old.
36 years old. He's coming off hip surgery. His striking was notoriously bad. He's more of, take you down. He's more of a wrestler, really, than a boxer or a striker. So I think that's why it's an interesting matchup. I don't know if I'll be watching myself. I don't know if I want to drop the cheddar on this one, but I am interested in seeing who wins. All right, let's close it out here. Either Aaron Rodgers or Joe Buck would make a good new host of Jeopardy. True or false?
False on Rodgers. I think he's the most overrated Jeopardy host ever. I think people thought he'd be so bad that because he's been okay, we're hyping it up.
The expectations were so low that the fact that he didn't embarrass himself made everybody just go crazy.
Rodgers hasn't been that good from my sources that actually watch Jeopardy. I mean, he's been fine. He hasn't been anything special. This idea that, Jeopardy's going to hire him full time and he's going to leave the Packers. No, they're not. I don't think Jeopardy thinks that he's been that great. Stop it. And as far as Joe Buck, let me tell you something about Joe Buck. If you dislike Joe Buck, I dislike you. Joe Buck is one of the nicest people I've ever met. Joe Buck is a great broadcaster. He's got the big game voice. He always nails the big game call in the last decade. Man, I'm a Joe Buck guy, and he's funny as hell. Have you ever heard him on some podcast he does?
I like him on podcasts or on Radio Hit or outside of the booth more than I like him in the booth.
That's fine.
I think he's good. I mean, he's very good, obviously, and he's had the job for a while. I don't love him, though, for a big baseball game. I'll be honest with you.
He's a witty man.
He is
witty
a witty man.
man.
Absolutely.
He'd be good on a show like Jeopardy. I'm excited to watch that. Watch that audition. I'm pumped up for that one. That wraps it up for quick hits right here. Or excuse me. That wraps it up for true or false right here. True on the Jake Asman Show. Number to call to get involved, 800-224-2004. Once again, 800-224-2004. You could tweet me at Jake Asman, JakeAsman. We'll react to your comments on the NFL draft. And, of course, my disdain for the New York Yankees right now coming up next right here on the Jake Asman Show.